Hey there. Welcome back to another Debt-Free Guys Facebook Live. We're glad that you joined us. This week we're going to be covering a question that is very important, super important. It's actually the big what if you question. So what is this what if you question? It's probably one of the most important questions that we need to ask ourselves if we want our lives to be better. So let's take a look at the real question. And that question is, what if you don't change?
Yeah.
So what does that mean, John? What are we talking about tonight?
Exactly. So, we had dinner last night with a financial advisor she's also a member of the LGBT community. And we talked about how a lot of the people in our community are struggling financially, predominantly with debt. Many of them are underprepared for retirement. They know that they have a problem, that there's a risk, that they're dealing with financial insecurity in some way, shape, or form, but they're not doing anything about it.
Right.
And she said, which I thought was quite interesting, because we struggle with this contradiction quite a lot. Her take on it was that many in our community seem to rely on hope, that someone or something is going to help them when they need the financial assistance,
Right.
Whether it's pre-bankruptcy or whether it's after lack of preparation for retirement or lack of long-term care.
Right. I think that most of us oftentimes think, oh, well, it's just it'll all work out in the end. Things will get better. They will. We have lots of stories of we know things got better for people. So we all just kind of innately believe, oh, things are going to get better for me.
Right. Yeah, so it's sort of this Pollyanna mentality. And maybe it's because many of us sort of come from a more liberal background where we believe in the responsibility of taking care of each other.
Right.
And while that's all well and good, hope, as we've said several times, is not a strategy.
Right.
We can't just hope that someone or something is going to take care of us. So, the question is, what happens if you don't make a change and that Superman or Superwoman isn't there to save you someday?
Yeah, exactly. Whether that's a sugar daddy or the government or a windfall from a relative who passed away. When it comes to your financial future, do you want to rely on the hoping that those things happen, or do you want to be prepared? One of the questions, or one of the things John and I were talking about this before, and one of the things I was asking him is, you think about yourself. You can place a bet on two people in a race. There's two people in the race. One of them hopes that they're going to win, and the other one is determined to win. So who would you bet on? Which person would you bet on to win that race?
Not that we're condoning betting.
Right, exactly. But then think about yourself. Would you bet on yourself if you were hoping to win? Or would you bet on yourself if you were determined to win? And that's kind of why we go back to that question of, what if you don't change? What will happen if you don't change?
I think about our story. We paid off our $51,000 worth of credit card debt 10 years ago.
Right.
Until we paid off that debt, we were paying about $10,000 a year in interest payments.
It's so crazy to think about.
All so that we could live beyond our means, which ironically, when we paid off our debt and we had that extra $10,000 to keep for ourselves, our quality of life got much better than it ever was when we were living on debt. But that's a whole other topic. So we paid off our $10,000. We paid off our $51,000 worth of credit card debt 10 years ago, and we stopped paying that $10,000 a year in interest payments. Now,
Right.
we haven't received a windfall of cash.
Nope.
Nobody's come to save us in the last 10 years. We didn't win the lottery.
Right.
Nothing of that nature has happened. And so what would have the consequences been if we did not pay off our credit card debt?
Right.
Well, we would have paid at least $100,000 over the last 10 years in interest payments,
Right.
probably
Even
more.
more than that.
Because we would continue to be racking it up and it would get more expensive. And so what would that have stolen from us, that $100,000? That would have stolen financial security, that would have stolen some travel, that would have stolen our condo, that would have made us less prepared than we are right now for retirement.
Right.
And I don't think I would want to trade the financial security that we have today, the quality of life that we have today, so that we could continue to pay $10,000 plus in interest payments a year.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think back to, we talk about living fabulously and this whole idea of living fabulously and not giving up your financial security. And that's exactly what happened to John and I. That it wasn't the first year after we paid off our debt. It was the second year. The second year that we had paid off our debt, we took all of that interest money that we had been sending to credit cards and we saved that. And we were able to take a month-long vacation and go to Australia and New Zealand. 21 days in Australia, 9 days in New Zealand, and we paid for all of that with cash. And the whole reason we did that, or were able to do that, is because we made that decision and we asked ourselves that question: what would happen if we did change? If we did make the change? Instead of thinking what would happen if we don't change, we thought what would happen if we did change, and we became intentional about what we really wanted.
Exactly. We have a Facebook friend who's not really sure how Facebook works, and yes, Sarah Villalobos McCurry, we can see you and you can see us. That's how Facebook Live works. But so the question is, if you don't make any changes to your financial situation today, we have been taking a lot of surveys from people in our community, and we get a lot of emails and direct messages, and people are taking various polls of ours that we have out there on social media. And the number one problem of the people who connect with us is credit card debt.
You're right.
And most people say on a scale of 1 to 10, scale of 1 through 5, 5 being great, 1 being horrible, most people are at a 2 in our community. So why would you not want to make a change?
Right.
Why would you risk your long-term or short-term financial security? Why would you sacrifice your potential retirement? Why would you not want to be prepared for, especially the very end of your life? What kind of quality of life are you going to have? What kind of quality of care are you going to have if you're reliant on a state subsidy of some sort?
Right. Well, Social Security or Medicare, Medicaid, if you're relying on those things and that's all you have, you're basically just barely scraping by.
Right.
You're not enjoying a fabulous life. Even if you were a very high wage earner, you're still not going to be getting a significant amount of money from state-sponsored, whether it's a pension or a Social Security. You're not going to be getting a significant amount of money. So it does that beg the question then for you to think about what would happen to you if you stayed on this current trajectory, your current course, whether it's in debt or not making the amount of money that you want to make or not paying off your student loans, whatever the case may be. Where do you think your life would be in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? It's good to ask that question because we know that we know that you want a better life. I mean, you've joined our Career Money community on Facebook, and we're hearing that so many of you want a better life. And so you got to ask the question, what prevents me from making that change?
Exactly.
Right?
So there are essentially 6 reasons why people don't make a change.
Right. So let's take a look at these 6 reasons. The 6 reasons why people don't make changes. So
and the first one is people don't want to make a change.
Right.
They're currently happy with the status quo.
Right.
There's just no motivation or incentive at this point for them to make a change, regardless of the fact that they know that they need to make an improvement.
Right. Yeah. Let's just run through these real quickly. So the first one is they don't want to make a change. The second one is that they're scared to make a change. The third, that they're dealing with their surroundings, whether it's family, friends, colleagues, or their physical surroundings. They're scared about the failures they've made in the past. They're not in enough pain to want to make the change, and then they lack the information. So let's kind of take a look at each one of these individually.
Right.
So, all right. So they don't want to change. What does it mean when someone doesn't want to change?
Yeah, so you're just happy with the status quo. There's not a whole lot of incentive for you, positive or negative, to make any difference, even though you know that if you continue on the same path, that the outlook isn't good. To me, the question there is, what does your future hold if you don't make a change? I mean, you might be happy with the status quo today. You might be happy hanging out with the same people. You might be happy living a certain quality of life, all knowing that will change for you someday for the negative in the future.
Right. You think about a lot of different scenarios where people need to make change. Sometimes they need to make change because of health reasons, or they need to make change because of financial reasons, or they need to make change because of relationship reasons. So there's always these incentives to make the change because you know things are going to get better, but sometimes just people get defiant. They just stop. They don't want to make the change, and it's oftentimes it's visible because we don't see any action being taken to make that kind of change.
Right, exactly. And if you hold on to the end of this Facebook Live, we're going to provide you 3 free exercises that we've created to help you make the decision to make a change and to figure out how you can make those changes. So
exactly.
Hold on to the end there. So the second reason people don't make a change is because they are scared.
Which is not an uncommon reason to not make change. I mean, that's probably one of the number one reasons that people don't make a change is because it's an unknown. When you start to do things differently, you change your habits, you start living your life differently, you don't know who it's going to impact, whether it's just yourself or other people.
Right. We knew that the only way that we were going to turn our financial situation around was that we were going to have to make some changes, and we knew that we were going to lose some friends in that transition. We knew not deliberately. It was just a natural evolution of the relationship that we could no longer hang out and be with certain people. The same thing as we've been doing with our business. We knew that as exciting as it was also kind of scary. We knew that we were leaving our current employers. We weren't going to have that regular paycheck every 2 weeks. We weren't going to have that health insurance. So that was, and we knew that we were going to lose a certain, collegiate feel of working with some friends and people who at this point we consider our family. Right. So there's a lot of fear there. Right. But they've all been for the better.
Right. I oftentimes think about, Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins, Lisa Nichols, all these transformational or motivational speakers, they talk about this whole idea of making change. And one of the things that they say is that when you change, the people that are around you either get on the train with you and move forward, or you leave them behind because you're making progress. They will understand and go with you, or they will go in the other direction. And you have to be comfortable with that. When you're making the change, you have to be comfortable with knowing that the change is to benefit you.
Right. And that's a great segue into the reason number 3 why people don't make a change, and that is because of their surroundings, their friends, their families, or their colleagues.
Right.
And it could be that and we all know there are certain people in our lives that are a distraction to what our long-term goals are.
Right.
You always have, you could tell your friend that I'm not drinking wine this month. And there will be that one friend who said, "It's Friday. Come out. I've had a horrible week at work. I need, let's go have a glass of wine." And you know that you're going to acquiesce. So
Or sometimes it's that one husband.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Right. But you even think about when someone is trying to quit smoking, and if they don't spend time with other people, if they continue to hang around with the people who smoke, the likelihood is they're just going to fall back into those bad habits, that bad habit of smoking again. And so you have to pull yourself away from the individuals or the situations or the occasions maybe that cause you to get yourself into the financial situation that you don't want to be in.
Right.
For us, oftentimes it was happy hour. We used to go out for happy hour, and there's nothing wrong with the happy hour. It's the problem is that it didn't just end at 1 hour. It went into a couple of hours, and then it went into dinner with a bottle of wine, and then oftentimes then after that we went to another place to have a drink, and what was supposed to be maybe a $10 or $20 night turned into a $150, $200 night because we just kept on adding on to it.
Right, and then as we drank more, our inhibitions were sedated, and we would be okay with spending more.
And we began to slur our speech a little bit, too.
I never did that. So the next reason why people don't make change, and that's because of past failures. And I think we are a prime example.
Sorry, that wrong one.
Close your eyes.
There we go.
We are a prime example of that. We had made several attempts when we were initially trying to pay off our debt that we failed at doing. Right. And we were starting to create this habit of failure, and that's something that Wayne Dyer talks about a lot. Some of us have become conditioned to failing. Right. We have these aspirational goals of I'm going to get in shape, I'm going to get the career, have the career I want, I'm going to pay down my debt, I'm going to, whatever, be a better parent. But very often we've conditioned ourselves to repeat the cycle of failure,
right.
And eventually we just start to say, well, that's just who I am.
Right.
I'm just naturally overweight. I'm big boned. Well, there's no such thing.
Right. And oftentimes, even in our Facebook Live last week, we talked about this saying of Lisa Nichols that your past is not a sentence to your future. If you've committed a true crime, then yes, you may go to jail. You may have to do community service, something like that. But a lot of the things that we do, we hang on to them and we make them a sentence because we're not willing to move forward. We're not willing to just let that past go. And a lot of times that has to do with what's going on in our head. I mean, that's kind of what we were really focusing on last week was what is it going to take mentally for you to make the change? Now we're talking about really the kind of the blockers and those things that do that. And one of these things is this holding on to my past. Oh, I can't do this because I am or I was or, it. And
very often there are people in our lives that reinforce that.
Right.
They'll say, well, you've never done that before, or you failed every time at that before, or you've always struggled with that.
Exactly.
And they're there to remind you that you're not going to make anything better, because if you do make something better about yourself, then that makes them have to shine a mirror into themselves and think, okay, well,
Absolutely.
if that person's improving in a certain area and I'm not, then they must be doing better than me. It becomes a competition. But I think that there's two opportunities here. The one is, if you have made past failures, then you know what not to do.
Yeah.
Right? So learn from your mistakes. And we've done that several times with paying off our debt initially, and as well as growing our business. We've made tons of mistakes. I think we're habitual mistake makers.
Yeah.
And, but we've had to learn from those. And the other is, you in the Career Monday community, you have us. We've made a lot of mistakes. We figured out how to make this work. So use us as a resource. And like I said earlier, we've got some free resources to help you change your money mentality, which is pretty much what this whole week has been about. If you go to debtfreeguys.com, you'll see that the article we had on Monday was about changing your money mentality, and that's what sort of this Facebook Live is about as well.
Right.
So the fifth reason why we don't make change is because it's not painful enough.
Right.
And Lisa Nichols tells it's actually she tells the story of the dog on the nail.
Right. Exactly.
So there's this man who walks past a porch every morning with an old woman and an old lady, old man and woman sitting on the porch, and they have a dog sitting next to them. And the dog is always groaning. So he walks by in the morning, the dog's groaning. He walks by in the afternoon, the dog's groaning. This happens day after day. Eventually he says to himself in the morning, if I see that dog sitting on the porch groaning, I'm going to ask, why is he groaning?
Yeah.
So he walks by, sure enough, the dog is groaning. And the man asks the woman, why is your dog constantly groaning? And she said, well, because he's sitting on a nail. And the man asks, well, if he's sitting on a nail, why doesn't he get up?
Right.
And she says, because it's painful enough for him to moan about it, but not painful enough for him to do anything about it.
Exactly.
And I think that a lot of us have that struggle. And this is very similar to reason number one why we don't make a change, that it's simply not painful enough.
Right.
And I think that's what credit cards have done to us. They can distract us from the real pain. I'm in a bad financial situation, but I've got a little bit of credit available on my credit card. I'm going to go to the mall, I'm going to buy myself a new outfit, and then I'll feel better because I look better. And everybody talks about how great I look. Right. And that masks the financial insecurity that I have.
Yeah.
Temporarily.
Yeah, and I think that all of us know that we know this. We know people, especially here on Facebook, we know people who we see complain and complain and complain, or maybe you work with somebody who complains about everything. They just complain and complain and complain. But are they willing to do anything to make it different? Are they willing to get a different job? Are they willing to speak up about this whole Harvey Weinstein thing is a big deal, example of this. People were not willing to go to speak up about the pain that was going on. The same thing goes with our lives. Are we willing to speak up, mentally speak up and say, I'm going to make some changes? More often than not, we don't.
Right. And it could be that those kinds of people who are always making those complaints are the people you're surrounding yourself with, which makes it harder for you to get ahead.
Absolutely.
We call those people soul suckers, and we try to avoid them at all costs.
Right.
Because they'll bring their best skill is to be able to bring you down as fast as possible.
Right.
And then finally, the sixth reason why we don't make a change is lack of information. We don't know where to start. We don't know what to do. And David and I experienced this a lot when we first started Debt Free Guys. We just kind of started to do our own thing, but there were directions we knew we needed to go that we didn't take as quickly as we should have, partly because of the fear of not knowing exactly how to do it.
Right. Yeah. Well, and oftentimes that's what we say to ourselves. Oh, well, I can't do this because I don't know for sure. I don't know enough. I don't know the next step. And that is 100% the reason why John and I are dedicating our lives and our time to talking to the queer community about our financial situation. Because the more we talk about it, the more we as a group talk about it, the more we will expose that so many of us are in a similar financial situation and want things to get better. And as we talk about it, we can start sharing with each other stories and things that we are doing, tips and tricks and things like that, that allow us to have that fabulous life, but at the same time, not give up our financial security.
Exactly. So here we are at the climax of this Facebook Live. Control yourself, people. As we said earlier, we have 3 free exercises that we've created to help you figure out how you're going to go from point A to point B.
Right.
As we said earlier in this podcast, on Monday we published an article on debtfreeguys.com called Why Nothing Will Change Until You Change Your Mind.
Right.
This whole week, everything that we've done and written about and everything we've talked about in our Queer Money Facebook group that many of you have joined, if you have not joined, make sure you do so, is all about changing your mentality. Because regardless of how much you might want to make a change, whether it's financial or health or any, whatever topic, nothing's going to change until you actually make the change in your mind. We talked about last week how I worked with a debt consolidation company, and they were great. Their strategy was great. Their fees were reasonable. It was me who was the problem because I wasn't committed to actually making the change. So go to debtfreeguys.com, look at the article, Why Nothing Will Change Until You Change Your Mind. In there we've got 3 free tools that are available for you to help you go from point A to point B.
Yeah.
The first tool is our Hopes and Dreams worksheet.
Yep.
What that will do is help you figure out, after David and I realized that we had too much debt, we needed to do something about it. We started to figure out, okay, why wasn't our life going the direction that we wanted it to go in? And we realized that we weren't living according to our values because we didn't know what our values were. So we spent the course of several months discussing what is it we really want in life, not what other people want us to want or what we thought we should want because we're in the LGBT community and we should have a certain lifestyle. We figured out what our hopes and dreams were. Right. And we were able to narrow that down to 3 things for us. And then once we figured that out, it was easy for us to get everything aligned together.
Right. The other thing that Hopes and Dreams worksheet really does is it helps you get rid of the ferret mentality. This whole idea of the next shiny object. Because you went to a party and your friends talked about X or Y, now you want that. And then you go to brunch and one of your other friends is now talking about Z and now you want that. And we've done it. John and I have done this before. You kind of run around chasing this whole idea of, well, this will make me happy or that'll make me happy. But that's the whole idea of this worksheet, is to figure out what are the small number of things that will provide me the most happiness. That worksheet is kind of the launch pad to making all of these changes.
Exactly. And the next worksheet that you'll be able to find in the Why Nothing Will Change Until You Change Your Mind article on debtfreeguys.com is our financial blockers worksheet. So you figured out what your hopes and dreams were or are. Then you need to figure out what exactly is preventing you from getting there. Right. We knew from our example, that we weren't going to have the life that we wanted. We weren't going to be able to achieve our 3 hopes and dreams if we had our $51,000 worth of credit card debt. So what all came with that? How did we acquire that debt? Why were we continuing to amass that debt? So the financial blockers worksheet will help you work through exactly what it is preventing you from what's the hurdle you have to get over to go from point A to point B.
Yeah, and sometimes some of those blockers are really easy. I mean, you know what they are, but when you spend a little time thinking about it, sometimes you uncover some of the things that you weren't expecting or some of the excuses that you make as to the reason why you're not doing what you need to do to make your life more financially secure.
Exactly. And then the last free exercise that you can get from our Why Nothing Will Change Until You Change Your Mind article from debtfreeguys.com is our What Are You Willing to Do worksheet.
Right.
It's not enough to know what your hopes and dreams are. It's not enough to know what your hurdles are. Then you have to figure out, okay, exactly how committed am I to making a change? Am I able to overcome those 6 reasons that we talked about earlier of why I don't want to make a change?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know there's this whole idea of that knowledge is power, but knowledge is not power unless you do something with that knowledge. It's useless. It's like gas sitting in the gas can. It doesn't do anything until you put it in the car and turn that engine and start moving forward. That is the method in which you are going to be able to make these changes.
Exactly. So, like we said, this whole week has been about changing your money mentality. Check out Why Nothing Will Change Until You Change Your Mind on debtfreeguys.com and get yourself those 3 downloadables, those 3 exercises that will help you figure out how to go from point A to point B. Yeah. And before we wrap up, we have a bunch of people asking questions, and I want to make sure we answer them, and I can't read some of them because of the sign.
Yeah, let's see here. Yep. Well, yeah, Sarah, we can see you. We have a question here. Can you make a deal with credit card companies, i.e., I want to pay this $5,000 balance off. Can we settle? Yes.
Let's make a deal.
And yes and no. It really depends on your leverage. It depends on what tools you have. If you can be at a certain point where you work with a debt consolidation company to help you lower that debt amount. One of the things that you'll want to keep in mind is that if you do settle with a company, whether it's a credit card company or if it's a local retailer where you have a credit card through them, when you settle, you are basically going to knock your credit score. You're going to knock your ability to be able to use credit in the future. So you want to be very cautious when you do that.
Exactly. I will say that one of the strategies that David and I did to help pay off our debt was we called our existing credit card companies to see if we could have our rates lowered. We told them that we were coming up with a strategy to pay off our credit card debt. Could we have our rates lowered? And not every case did they acquiesce, but in some cases they did. So that's something that you can do that won't have a negative effect on your credit. You may, however, want to ask before you negotiate anything, and they cede to you that, whether or not something's going to have effect on your credit report or your credit score. Yeah. So, but if you go to debtfreeguys.com and do a search for the debt lasso method, you'll see what our strategy is there.
Exactly. One other question here from Sarah, and she asked the question of why do people hate the word budget? And I think that
it's like diet.
Right. It's because for many people, the word budget means no. But if you can flip that on its ear and change it to mean yes, a budget is a very useful tool. Remember we talked about our hopes and dreams, that hopes and dreams worksheet? When John and I decided what we really wanted because that is what would make us happy, then it was very easy to figure out where we should be spending our money. And then our budget became very useful. It didn't become a detractor in our life. It became the motivator in our life for getting the things that we really wanted.
Right. And, we often ask ourselves this question: do we want a margarita here in Denver, or do we want a margarita in Puerto Vallarta? And invariably, we want the margarita in Puerto Vallarta, and it's our budget that allows us to be able to save up for what it is that we really want.
Exactly.
The margaritas in Denver are good, but they're not as great as the ones on the beach in Puerto Vallarta.
Exactly.
And then that's just a comment from Ryan Bards. Holy crap, they're famous. Yes, we are, and I'm happy to give you an autograph, but you have to provide the pen.
All righty.
So thank you, everybody, for joining us this week. Don't forget to go to debtfreeguys.com, go to Monday's article, and get those 3 free downloadables. Start working on your plan to go from point A to point B, and we will see you next week, same bat time, same bat station.
Exactly. And remember, if you do change, then things will get better. It's once you make that decision to make the change, you start formulating those good habits, and your life will get better.
And now, thank you, Spain, for joining us. We appreciate you paying attention. We appreciate it.
Definitely.
Bye-bye.